Hello, everyone. My name is Ayman Khan, and I'm an international student here in Finland. So I'm originally from a very vibrant city of Karachi, Pakistan, and currently I'm pursuing my master's degree in computer science from Tampere University. So before coming to Tampere, I was working as a software engineer in a leading tech company in Pakistan. And I'd say that it has been instrumental in gaining hands on experience in the industry. So, primarily, I was working on developing and maintaining software solutions for a client. But tada, I realized that I'm fond of painting blank canvases my own way. So the imaginative, creative Eamon in me wanted to be a part of something new, something exciting, or to be someone who could be driving something new or something exciting. And thus, I came here at Tampere University. I'm engaged in research and academic activities that basically push further the grounds of computer sciences. And I think I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a very vibrant academic um, community of researchers and students with diverse backgrounds, professors, and even customers who are working on a very new technologies and new ideas. So, yes. And then I quite recently, basically, I joined Pekka and his team at GPT-Lab um, as a research assistant. So, I believe that GPT Laboratory is a very cutting edge research facility dedicated in advancing the generative artificial intelligence. This is something I'm new to, but it was quite interesting to me in the recent times. So I'm working on developing a platform, basically a software prototype for, hold on, trustworthy LLM-based multi-agent chatbots. I know it's a buzz fancy word, but I think it's important when it comes to large language models such as ChatGPT or Olama that their measure of trustworthiness is the accuracy, the reliability, and the ethical integrity of the outcomes of these models. So we are working on exploiting techniques like RAG, Retrieval-Augmented Generation, LangChain, and introducing multiple agents and the concept of multiple rounds to enhance the factual reasoning and grounding, I would say, justification of the responses of these large language models. Yes, precisely. That's everything that I'm doing with my life right now. I don't know where I will be in the next few months or next few years, but that's about me. Okay, let's take you back in history. Let's assume once upon a time there was a kingdom of GPT land, and there lived two entities, completely different yet extremely powerful. A being the wise or well informed retriever, and B, a creative generator. So the wise retriever was renowned across the kingdom of GPT land about his ability to get the most relevant information from these huge um, libraries. So whenever the citizens of this kingdom had some question, they would go to the wise retriever who would go back into the archives of information and bring back the most accurate, relevant information or knowledge, you would say. On the other hand, the creative generator was a master in storytelling, and he would generate very fascinating and very captivating and cohesive stories. Although they were very appealing, but sometimes they could be based on imaginations or hallucinations rather than fact. Now, people of this kingdom would go and just listen to his creative stories. Now, once the kingdom faced a problem, and that was that the people not only needed appealing and um, applausive stories, but they want this information to be accurate and relevant. So let's just say they could do some decision making or XYZ things. Um, Now, the king of the GPT-Lab summoned the wise retriever and the creative generator and asked them to work in collaboration to exploit the unique strengths of these individuals. Now, what happened was the wise generator, when a citizen would go question something, the wise retriever would go into the vast knowledge base, bring back the most relevant information. The relevant information then goes into the creative generator, which will now build responses and which will now build stories which are accurate and which are relevant and which could be justified from the content that is provided through the voice retriever, sorry. And this whole story is about Retrieval-Augmented Generation. So you can think of these large language models as, uh, you know, being pre-trained in huge amount of data, and you are basically augmenting, you are basically grounding some additional information to these large language models to produce responses that could be factually justified and they could be reasoned. And that is what retrieval augmented generation, that is what REG actually is. Okay, so I think, rather, I must say that I believe that REG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, is extremely crucial for enhancing the performance of these traditional generative AI models. And I could think of several reasons, but I would like to highlight mainly few here. And the first and foremost being improved accuracy and reliability. So, I said before that what these generative models do, like for example, ChatGPT or Llama series, what they do is that they, against a prompt, they predict and they have a cohesive nature of generating responses. So, although that is extremely powerful, the ability to generate content, but sometimes these content cannot be factual, rather just based on imaginations. So it won't be accurate, it couldn't be justified, it couldn't be reasoned. Rather, it's just a piece of information that these LLMs are producing. Now, what REC does it augments a retrieval system. So when you are fetching relevant information from relevant sources that are provided to the knowledge base, you are actually uh, justifying the content you are producing. So let's, for example, consider that a user types in a prompt to generate some code. And what LLMs do is that they predict and they generate some sort of code. But instead, the generative LLM goes to a Stack Overflow, searching the data repository of a Stack Overflow, and brings you the most relevant and the most accurate response. And then it has a justification that my source was a Stack Overflow. Now, this improves the trustworthiness in LLMs. So you can basically have accurate and relevant and justifiable outcomes through these LLM models by introducing REG. Secondly, I would say that REG also eliminates almost hallucination. So, if you must know, generative models are known for hallucinating. So, they will generate responses very confident soundingly, yet completely incorrect. And when you are retrieving data from right sources in real time through a knowledge base, then you are actually providing the source and you're justifying that your response is based on XYZ content, and it's just not something that you are imagining that the LLM is hallucinating or creating out of nowhere. Rather, it is contextually aware of the response it is producing. Um, Another great and big importance, and I would say pros of implementing REG is that so you can basically think of the knowledge that is fed to LLM in three ways. The first is the pre-defined models. And so there is this large amount of data that an LLM is trained on, and it requires a huge amount of computational power, which is not something that you will do in your day-to-day basis. Then there is another aspect, and let's say that the data it is pre-trained on is the internal knowledge of the LLM. Now, another technique is to fine tune the data. So you provide additional data, but it is also somewhat tweaking the parameters, the internal knowledge of your LLM. So in both ways, you are basically improving the internal knowledge of the LLM, and these require extensive amount of computational powers. Now, what REG is that on the top of the internal knowledge of LLM, you are basically grounding additional information to make these LLM response in a relevant way, in an accurate way. And this is much cheaper and require much less computational power than the two techniques of additionally improving the database. And you can think of domains such as medicine or insurance policies or customer support service, where your data is changing in a daily basis. Now imagine that you want to keep your LLM up to date and you want to keep that thing dynamic. So instead of pre-training or retraining, I would say, these models, embedding and grounding an external information, an external source of knowledge is much cheaper and much easier, I would say, to practice. Um, what else? Thirdly, extensively, I would say the user experience, because currently what users are seeing is just a prompt and response. There is no justification about it. But let's assume that you produce trustworthy LLMs which are able to reason and factually, provide you information about the response they're generating. This introduces the factor of trustworthiness in these AI systems, maybe not completely, but to somewhat very greater extent. And these AI systems then can then be integrated in domains, and I can think of multiple domains to enhance the user experience, to enhance the productivity of this whole ecosystem in a very shorter time. And what else? I would say yes, that's the versatility and the contextual awareness of the responses these LLMs are generating is also very great way of assessing the enhancement that REG could introduce in these generative AI models. Here, I would like to mention that generative AI is not something that has been there over decades, and techniques like Retrieval-Augmented Generation, or LangChain, or vector databases and vector graphs um, is something new in the market, in the field of computer science, and it is ever evolving. So, although there are many benefits of introducing REG into your Gen AI LLMs, but there are certainly a lot of limitations to it yet, um, which could be addressed in a more specific way to get it implemented in certain ways where REG with other techniques could produce more trustworthy and more accurate responses. Um, I would like to mention few here which affects the efficiency of REG itself. The first is, of course, um, the latency of retrieving a data from a large scale data set. So there is a lot of, not as much as uh, the one required in pre-training a model or fine-tuning the model, but it's still an extensive amount of computational resources that are required to index and embed and retrieve the information from the database every time a user prompts something or every time a queries goes into the database. And you can just assume that if the more these databases grow, the more this knowledge graphs grow, it just become complex to do the indexing and the searching algorithms of, um, accurate, perfect responses. Um, Secondly, uh, keeping the data up to date is again not something very convenient. There is a lot of amount of indexing and re-indexing that is supposed to be done, and it will require resources to do that. Secondly, if you're feeding some documents and some knowledge into your knowledge base, then you have to make sure that all this data, all this document that gets loaded into the database is actually accurate, is actually relevant, and there is no noise data that is going inside this knowledge graph or knowledge databases, because then it will result into responses which are not as trustworthy, as reliable as something which was domain specific. Um, Also, with the fact that there could be noise in the data sets that you provide as databases, there could also be contradictory information. So you could have your databases having information which contradict each other's, and now you have to decide how the LLM will respond to your user, and it's just unpredictable. Um, what else? I think, um, yes, I could only think of these. But yes, as this field grows and as we explore implementing REG systems more and more into our LLMs, certainly there will be limitations which could surface, and there will be solutions to those limitations, I believe. Oh, I would say that if you or any one of you love acquiring knowledge, it's not just the foundness of studying, um, rather to actually diving deep into learning. Um, you would love being here at Tampere University, and it's not just about high quality education, which is essentially very important, but rather a very student centric learning approach. So it's like if you want to study, if you want to acquire knowledge, you are able to do that. And if not, it's up to you. And I think that encourages the students to exploit the research facilities as well. Um, the state of art service, student services, I must say. What else? I think the interdisciplinary path, uh, you have this choice to select multiple um, choices of studies and integrate it into your personal plans of what you will be studying in your master's or bachelor's, I guess. And this gives you, a free choice to actually explore new opportunities and new ideas and something that just simply interests you. So you could be working in computer and taking one subject of art because you were interested. Um, and what else? Yes, also the international community. The fact that you will get to explore um, these people coming from very diverse backgrounds helps you to not only grow professionally or educationally, but it will benefit you personally as well. And that is what makes Tampere an excellent place to study.